Okay, Rabbi said, let's get started. We're on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, and we're in the middle of a discussion of where we derive the NOACHIDE, or what, the mitzvahs that apply to Gentiles, where that comes from. So at the end of the Daf yesterday, on Daf, end of Daf Nun Vav, the Gemara had mentioned that this is a machlokas tanoim. There is one Mandomar who says that it's derived from the pasuk that when Hashem first spoke to Adam, he says, "Vayitzav Hashem lokim es Adam leimor mikol eitz hagan achol tochel." And from that pasuk, you can derive all shiva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. But now the Gemara says there's Tana Devei Menashe, another Tana, who says that it's not derived from there, but rather you have to look at Noach. You have to look at the psukim revolving around Noach to really derive the shiva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. And by the way, when we say Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach, it's not really 7. There's different ways of numbering the list, but we're going to do we'll be a little fuzzy. It's about 7. So anyway, so the Gemara now says, where do we get Avodah Zarah and Gili Arayas, according to this latter Tana who learns it out from Noach? Dichsiv, and it's at the top line of Nun Zayin, Vatishaches Haaretz Lifnei HaElokim. Because it says that by the story of Noach, that mankind became corrupt, and Vitana devei Rabbi Shmuel kol makom shenamar hashchasa eino ela devar erva vodas kolchavim. Anytime corruption, hashchasa, is mentioned in the Torah, it's a reference to avodah zarah and gili arayas, idolatry and sexual immorality. And and how do I know? Devar erva shenemar ki yishchis kol basar es darko. I know that the word derech, Rashi says, is related to sexual normalcy, because there's a pasuk in Mishlei that derech gever ba'alma. The word derech is in reference to a normal, intimate relationship between man and woman. So therefore, when it says there was a corruption of that derech, that's a corruption of arayas. And avodas kochavim, the word hashchasa is used directly in reference to avodah zarah by the Torah, and that's how I know that both crimes were involved. And like Tosfos and Rashi both explain, if there was no warning, if there was no prohibition of idolatry and erva, how could the Jews be punished for that? So therefore, that's proof that how could the Gentiles be punished? So therefore, that's proof that it was part of the commandments against the Gentile world, against idolatry and arayas. Okay, v'idach, and the other Tana who says that this is derived, the mitzvahs b'nei Noach are derived from Adam. He'll tell you orchayu dekam megali. All the pasuk is doing is not telling you a halacha, but it's rather just revealing to you their behavior. And shvichus damim. The pasuk after the Mabul, where God makes a covenant with mankind through Noach, he also says, anyone who spills the blood of man, his blood shall be spilled. So you see that murder is specified as one of the NOACHIDE laws. V'idach kitolayu dekom. And the other Tana will tell you, that's not teaching you the source for the prohibition of murder for Gentiles, but rather it's telling you what the death penalty is, because it says the blood shall be spilled. Now, we're going to see a machlokes shortly as to what the standard death penalty for Gentiles who commit a capital offense is. One Mando Omar holds that it's death by sword, and the other Mando Omar says it's death by chenek, by strangulation. So this Tana holds that it's death by sword, and therefore, when it talks about the shedding of blood, it means because other types of capital punishment do not involve the spilling of blood, but death by the sword clearly does. Okay, Gezel, Dirsiv, and how do you know that Gezel is included in the NOACHIDE laws? Dirsiv, Kierik Esev Nosati Lachem Eskol. Amar Reb Levi, Kierik Esev Eloyer Kierik Gina. That when God was permitting to Noach to certain things that he's permitted to eat, he said that the meat of animals shall be to you like the vegetation of grass. And Rabbi Yitzchak had said, what does that mean, vegetation of grass? Rabbi Levi, rather. meaning that grass is something that you're permitted to eat because it's free for everyone. It's out growing in the wild. But vegetation of a garden, which is private property, you don't have permission to eat. Why? Because you'd be stealing. So that's where I get the prohibition of stealing from for non-Jews. V'idach hahula mishri basar hu da'asr. And the other Tana, who learns it out from Adam, will tell you that pasuk's not telling you about the prohibition of theft. It's telling you that man was now permitted to eat meat, and that's the only thing that we're deriving from that pasuk. Because as you know, before Noach saved the animals in the Mabul, in the Teva, it was not permitted for man to eat meat until that time. Eivrim min achai, where does the prohibition of eating a limb from a live animal come from? Dichsiv ach basar b'nafsho damo lo sochelu. The Torah says that you may not eat meat if it is still intertwined with its soul and its blood, meaning if the animal is still alive. So that's the source for Eivrim min achai. So v'idach ahula mishrei shratzim hu da'asr. And the other mandarim, as I derive it from Adam, says that pasuk is not teaching you about Eivrim min achai, that was already taught. It's teaching you a facet of Eivrim min achai, that even though you're not allowed to eat the meat of a live animal, you are allowed to eat the body of a sheretz, of a what do we call what kind of class of creature is that? It's a crustacean. Is that no? It's an arthropod. In other words, animals whose flesh and blood are not separate components within their bodies. The Torah only prohibits eating the meat when it is a separate, distinct component from the blood. But if everything is mixed together like it is by insects and other creatures like that, shrutzim, what we call shrutzim, so then the Torah does not permit Eivrim min achai. You're allowed to eat a bug alive. Not you, but your Gentile counterpart can eat a bug. Okay? Now, sirus, Dirsiv, Shirtzu Va'aretz Urevuva. Where do we get the prohibition for a Gentile to castrate or in any way diminish procreation? Because the Torah says, multiply in the earth, right, and become numerous. V'idach livracha ba'alma. And that, the other Tana who learns it out from Adam, because it's said by Adam Pru'ervu, will tell you over here it's merely a blessing and not a commandment. And kilayim, the prohibition of crossbreeding, dichsiv meha'of leminehu. As it says that the birds had to be of the same species when they entered the ark, every bird according to its kind. So you see from there that mixed crossbreeding was not permitted. V'idach, and the other mandomer who learns it out from Adam, hahu litzavta ba'alma. That's only, not that there's a mitzvah to not crossbreed to be derived from there, but rather that God was sensitive, and when he knew that birds of a feather flock together, that birds, like all other creatures, are more comfortable sticking around their own species. And therefore he arranged that each male bird would have a female bird of the same species to keep it company. Not because we're deriving from the prohibition of crossbreeding, that's derived from somewhere else. Amr of Yosef, Amri Beirav. So now we get to the next topic. Rav Yosef says that I learned in the yeshiva of Rav that al shalosh mitzvahs ben Noach nehara. That despite the fact that there are more mitzvahs, no more Noachide laws, you only get capital punishment when you violate 3. And we'll skip the siman. Al gili arayas vel shvichus damim vel birkas Hashem. They are for sexual crimes, for murder, and for cursing God. Maskif lo Rav Sheshes, bishlam shvichus damim dichsiv shofech dam ha'adam v'goymer. So Rav Sheshes, as I understand, where you get murder from, because that's explicit in the pasuk that whoever murders will be murdered himself or will be put to death. Ela hanach minolu. But where do you get the other 2? Sexual crimes and cursing God. So igam mishvichus damim afilu kulunami. If you're deriving it from the mematzinu that just like by murder the penalty is death, so too by all Noachide law, well then why limit it to those 3? It should be open to all the Noachide laws. And imishum de israboy meish ish avodas kachavim nami israbi. And if you're going to learn it out from every time the Torah says the word ish twice in a commandment, well it says ish in regard to arayas, and it says ish in regard to cursing God. So therefore, and it says ish in regard to murder. So maybe that's the source. Well, if that's the case, then there should be a fourth one on the list, because it says ish, ish. The word ish twice is telling you both Jews and non-Jews. It says that twice by Avodah Zarah as well. And how do you know it says me ish, ish? It says ish, ish. Asher yitein mi zara lamolech mos yumas. Any man who gives his child to Molech, which is a form of idolatry, shall be put to death. So then you should have 4 on the list, not 3. That's the Gemara's question. Ela Omer Rav Sheishes, Amri Bei Rav, al arba mitzvahs ben Noach nehara. So Rav Sheishes says that if anything was stated in Rav's yeshiva, it was that 4 of the NOACHIDE laws are capital offenses, not 3. So frek the Gemara of al avodas kol chavim ben Noach nehara. Oh really? You mean to say that for Avodah Zarah, a goy is put to death? The Hatanya, ba'avodas kol chavim, devarim shebeistin shel Yisrael memisin aleihen, ben Noach muzhar aleihen. Now, when it comes to Avodah Zarah, the Brisa says, things that the Beis would put to death, a Jewish Beis would put to death a Jew for, and a ben Noach, a Gentile, is commanded not to do. Now, what that implies is that it's only a capital offense for a Jew, but not a capital offense for a Gentile. So azhara in misalo. That seems to be the derivation to be made. So how do you explain that? So Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak azhara shalahen zuhi misasa. The Gemara says no, that's not the correct inference to make. What you're supposed to infer from that language is that a Jew has to be warned first. Don't do that as Avodah Zarah. And if he does it, here is the penalty. But a Gentile, all he needs to know is that it's prohibited, and therefore, if he does it, he's immediately put to death. Doesn't need any further kind of forewarning or any other admonition. That's what the Brisa means. Not to exclude a Gentile from the death penalty, but to state that the foreknowledge that a Gentile needs to have, there are less prerequisites than there are for a Jew.
Like Hasra with Eden.
I think so. It sounds to me like it's not talking about the actual hasra'ah that, let me just make sure if I'm saying it right. Kolomar, kol azhara detana tana gabi b'nei Noach, zuhi misa shalahem, delo daik behutana lemisnei misa gabi chayvi misos v'azhara b'shein ba misa kila gabi Yisrael. That the way that the Rashi understands it is that this Tana is not distinguishing between the prohibition and the penalty. By Jews, the Tana draws a distinction because there are some things for which you get the death penalty and some things you don't. But for a Gentile, the very fact that it's prohibited, by definition, means that they get the death penalty. That's the way that Rashi's learning it. So, Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda v'kul talmidei de Rav Omri al sheva mitzvahs ben Noach ne'arag. So, and the reason I know that is because Goli Rachmana b'chada v'hu adin l'kulu. So these Talmidim of Rav say not like Rav Sheshes. They say any Noachide violation gets the death penalty, not just 3 or 4. And the fact is, the Torah tells me by murder that it's capital punishment, but from there I derive that all other Noachide violations are capital punishment. V'al hagezel ben Noach neherag. So, frek the Gemara, you mean to tell me that a Gentile is executed for committing gezel? V'hatanya, look at the following brisa, and I'm going to readily admit at the outset, the brisa is a little bit confusing, a little bit hard to. We would need to really break it down more carefully if we had more time. But let's take a look at it at its face value. Al hagezel gonav v'gozal v'chein yefas toar v'chein kayotze bahen kusi b'kusi v'kusi b'Yisrael aser v'Yisrael b'kusi mutter. Look, the brisa states that for any type of theft, including the taking of a yefas toar. Now, what is a yefas toar? You find a woman on the battlefield and you take her home with you. That is a form of theft when you think about it, because you're basically kidnapping a woman and basically saying, I don't care what you want, you're coming home with me. So that's a form of kidnapping. So, and then it says, v'chein kayotze bahen, and all other things that have a semblance to theft. In all of those cases, if a Gentile does it against another Gentile, or a Gentile does it against a Yisrael, so then it's usr. But if a Jew does it against a Gentile, it's mutter. Now, this is very difficult to understand, this brisa, if you're just going to read it plain. Because, what do you mean? A Jew's allowed to steal from a Gentile? Of course not. We know that a Jew cannot steal from a Gentile. So what it's going to turn out is that this brisa is, this line of the brisa that says that a Jew can do it against a Gentile is only talking about those things which are a semblance of Gezel and the Yafas Toar, but not a case of Gezel Mamish. But the Gemara is quoting this brisa for what purpose? V'im Isa nisni chayev mishum nisni chayev. If you're going to tell me that for any NOACHIDE violation, it's the death penalty, why did you say that it's usr in the brisa? You should have said that it's chayev. The word chayev means not only is it forbidden, but that you get the death penalty for it. That's what it should have said in the brisa. So the Gemara's answer is mishum dekaboy lemisni seifa Yisrael bekusi mutter tanaresha usr. The answer is for symmetry purposes. You're right. Really, the brisa could have said chayev, but it would be asymmetrical. Because at the end we're saying that for things that are a semblance of Geneva, it is completely mutter for a Yisrael to do. So that implies, for symmetrical purposes, it says usr for a goy to do against another goy or against a Jew, but not to tell me that you don't get the death penalty. So frak the Gemara, v'ha kol hecha di islay chiyuva misna ketani. But wait a minute, says the Gemara, I'm not happy with that answer, because I'm going to show you a previous line from that very same brisa that says explicitly that when you get the death penalty, you're chayev. It doesn't say usr. The ketani reisha al shvichas damim kusi bekusi b'Yisrael chayev, Yisrael bekusi pater. It says for murder, if a Gentile murders another Gentile, or a Gentile murders a Jew, the Gentile murderer is chayav, and it uses the word chayav mamish. It's for when a Yisrael murders a kusi, he's pater. So you see the word chayav is employed by the Mishnah. How can you tell me that the Mishnah, the brisa, is not using the word chayav? So the Gemara says, no, hasam hechi lisni asr mutter v'hatanya kusi v'rebei medakalu malin b'lo moridin. So he says, because there, it's clear that you can't use the words mutter or usr in that part of the brisa. Because if we were to use the words mutter and usr, that would imply that it's completely permitted for a Jew to murder a Gentile. And we know that that's not permitted. A Jew is not allowed to murder a Gentile just because he wants to. The only thing we do know is that when you're dealing with a heathen, or even a Jew who is a habitual sinner, because he raised, sort of like a mummer, because he's a magadel behemadaka, he raises small animals in Eretz Yisrael to steal from other people's property. So in those situations, we don't allow you to take the guy out, to take out your Magnum 45 and just which you wouldn't have in Canada anyway. But just to take him out, right? But rather we tell you that if he's in a dire situation, you're not obligated to save him. You're not obligated to save him. So you see that it's not permitted to commit murder in any instance. So therefore, in that portion of the brisa, I couldn't have used the words mutter or usr. I had to use the words chayiv and pater. So therefore, that's why that language is used there. But over here, where it's actually mutter at times for a Jew to steal, in a sense, from a Gentile, in very limited situations of the Yafas Toar, and in other examples that we'll give shortly, there we use the mutter and usr contrast. So kayotze bo begezel mai. So the Gemara now says, so what does the brisa mean when it says a semblance of gezel? So maihi. So Omer Rav Acha bar Yaakov lo nitzracha elo lepoil b'kerem. We're talking about an employee in the landowner's vineyard, where it's at times permitted to eat the grapes of the employer, even though they don't belong to you. You've been hired to harvest them. So that's a semblance of gezel. So the Gemara, poil bekerem emas. When is this guy working in the vineyard? Ibishas gemar malacha heteru. If he's working at the time of harvest, the Torah permits a person completely outright to eat the grapes as he's harvesting. There's no semblance of gezel there. Ilav b'shas gemar malacha gezel ma'al yehu. And if it's not at the time of harvest, then no one's ever allowed to do it, and that's mamish gezel. That's not a semblance of gezel. So ella amar Rav Papa lo nitzracha ella lepachos mishava pruta. So Rav Papa says you're right. It's not talking about eating grapes. It's talking about stealing less than a shava pruta of a person's property. And that's what the Brisa means when it talks about a semblance of gezel. So, frak the Gemara, ihachi kusi bi Yisrael aser habar mechilu. Well, then why is it aser for a Gentile, and why is it considered an offense when a Gentile steals less than a shava pruta from a Yisrael? A Jew, typically, we know that one of the differences between Jews and non-Jews is a Jew is willing to be moichel theft up to a pruta, whereas a Gentile is not moichel, even less than a pruta. But if a Jew is willing to be moichel it, what's the big deal if a Gentile steals from him? So the Gemara answers, Nehi de basar hachi machale tzara b'shaite milesle. The answer is it's still considered an offense, because I will grant you that at the time, that after the fact, the Yisrael will be moichel, but at the time when he sees the Gentile stealing from him, even less than a shava pruta, it causes him some level of pain. So that's why it's asr. Kusi b'kusi kayotze bahen. So then what? A Gentile who steals from a Gentile in a semblance of gezel, kibin delav bar mechilaninu gezel ma'alyu. Why did you just call that a semblance of gezel? If a Gentile steals less than a shava pruta from another Gentile, don't call that a semblance of gezel. That's mamish gezel, since a Gentile is not moichel at all. So ella amar avacha bereder avika lo nitzracha ella lekove schar sachir. So rather, we're going to have to come on to a third shot as to what a semblance of gezel means. It doesn't mean harvesting grapes. It doesn't mean stealing less than a shava pruta. What it means is that when you delay paying an employee that worked for you, so then, which we know is a serious crime, when you do that against a fellow Jew. However, delaying payment of an employee is a semblance of gezel. So kusi b'kusi b'Yisrael aser, Yisrael b'kusi mutter. It is prohibited for a Gentile to do that either to a fellow Gentile or to a Jewish employee, but it is permitted for a Jew to delay payment, to defer payment to a non-Jewish employee. And kayotze b'yafas toar ma'i. And by the way, this is not halacha l'maisa. We have to go through the halacha with the poskim to find out whether this is halacha l'maisa. I can guarantee you this is not halacha l'maisa, but what it is telling you is that the level of prohibition is not the same as when a deferring payment for a Jewish employee as much as a Gentile employee. But as a matter of halachic practice, it is prohibited to defer paying either a Gentile or a Jew. Yeah. Now, kayotze b'yafas toar mahi. What is a semblance of yafas toar? Right. So what is that? Ki aser Rabbi Amar Lazar Rabbi Chanina ben Noach sheyichet shivcha la'avdo. That if we have a Gentile who set aside a female to be his shivcha, to be his servant, uba aleha, and then he has relations with her, that's a form of kidnapping. It's not really taking a yafas toar, but he gets executed for it because he sort of forcibly took her as a consort. Nerag aleha, then kayotze bo deshvichus damim lo. And then the Gemara says, what's interesting is that we never saw a semblance of murder in the Brisa. The Brisa only says that there are semblances of theft, but there is no semblances of murder. It's either murder or it ain't murder. The guy's either alive or dead. So that's why the Brisa doesn't talk about semblances of murder. So lo Tanya. So Amar Abaye imish kachas the Tanya Rabbi Yonasan ben Sholi. The Tanya Rabbi Yonasan ben Shol Omer Rodef achar chaber lahargo v'yachol atzilu bechad meivara v'lo hitzil neheragalav. So Abaye says something very bizarre. He says that I grant you won't find that in this brisa, but if you were to find the brisa that talks about a semblance of murder, I could come up with a thought experiment of what a semblance of murder would be. And that is when a person kills a rodef, when in reality he could have saved himself by not killing him, but rather just disabling him. And that we know the halacha is that if you use lethal force to stop a rodef, when you could have stopped him by a non-lethal effort, that's a semblance of murder, but you get the death penalty for it nonetheless. And that could be what a brisa would mean when it says a semblance of murder. Now, Ashkach Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha dehava ksiv b'sefer Agada to devei Rav, ben Noach neherag b'dayin echad ve'ein echad shelo ba'asra mipi ish v'lo mipi isha va'afilu korov. So Rav Yaakov bar Acha found a halachic medrash in Rab's yeshiva, and apparently it was written in a scroll, and it stated as follows, that a Gentile who is being judged, the process of the judiciary is different for a Gentile than for a Jew. For a Jew, in order to convict him of a capital offense, you need 23 dayanim. You need 2 eidim, you need hasra, you need forewarning. And the dayanim cannot be relatives, and the eidim cannot be relatives. So none of that applies by a Gentile. By a Gentile, you only need 1 judge, you only need 1 witness, you don't need forewarning, and the judge and the witnesses can only be male and not female. That's equal to Jewish law. But the judge and the witness can be a relative. Now, Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Amru, Af al ha'ubrin. Rabbi Shmuel adds one additional facet, that whereas by a Jew who commits an abortion, he's committed murder, but it's not a capital offense, a Gentile who commits an abortion is committing a capital offense that gets put to death. That's another difference between a Jew and a Gentile. Now, Minohani Mili. So where do we get these differentiations? Amar Rav Yehuda da Amar Kora, Ach es dimchem lenafsho seichem edrosh, afilu b'dayin echad. So edrosh is stated in the singular, that I, God, shall seek this out. So that implies that just like God is singular, so too a dayin can be singular for a Gentile. Miyad kol chaya, afilu shelo bahasra. The word miyad in that pasuk sounds like the word miyad, which means immediate, which means there doesn't have to be any forewarning. Anytime he commits the crime, he's immediately put to death. Edrishenu umiyad ha'adam, afilu be'ed echad. I will seek this person out from a man. Man is written in the singular. So that implies that even 1 witness is enough to include miyad ish, and the word miyad ish is written. So the word ish below miyad isha. So that excludes a woman from being a judge or a witness. Achiv afilu karo. However, the pasuk also makes reference to a brother. So therefore, this teaches me that even a relative can be a dayan or an aid. And Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Amru Af al ha'ubrin, my time to Rabbi Shmuel. So what does Rabbi Shmuel add? That a Gentile is liable for a capital offense for committing abortion. Dichsiv shofech dam ha'adam ba'adam damo yishafech. Ezehu adam shuhu ba'adam hevi omer zeuber shebemei ima. He says, because the language of the pasuk is that if you spill blood within a human being, then that person's blood shall be spilled. What kind of situation do you have of a human being within a human being? That refers to a fetus. And when you terminate a fetus, you've committed a capital offense, and you shall be put to death. The Tanakama, Tana Debe Menashe, who the Omer Kol Misamur Livnei Noach Eno Elechenek, the Shadi Lehai Ba'adam Aseifa Dekra Udrosh Behachi. Ba'adam Damo Yishafeich, Ezehu Shvichus Damim Shal Adam Shu Begufo Shal Adam, and the Omer Zechenek. The Tanakama, who doesn't include abortion as a difference between Jews and Gentiles, will tell you that that word ba'adam, within a human being, is not referring to the victim, but rather is referring to the criminal. The criminal is ba'adam, and it's referring to the way of the method of his execution. He is executed in such a way that the death that is inflicted upon him remains contained within his body, such that there is no spillage outside of his body when he's executed. Because this Tana holds like Tana Devei Menashe, who says that the standard death penalty for a Gentile is not death by the sword, as we had said before, but rather is death by strangulation, where the death penalty, when it's administered, does not result in any spillage outside the body. Now, so that's what ba'adam means. It has to remain contained within the body. Masiv Rav Hamnuna v'ishalo mifkida. So you mean to tell me that based on your hermeneutics, a woman is not included in the judicious process? So b'haksiv ki yadativ l'man asher yitzaveh v'goimer. But doesn't the pasuk say that I know that Avraham will give charge to his household to carry on the law? Which the word household implies both men and women, and it sounds like he's giving them charge to follow the law and to carry out the judicious process. So who mosav la v'hu mefarik la banav lidin beisa litzdaka. He asked the question and he answered it as follows. The pasuk talks about both mishpat and tzedakah. So the word mishpat refers to only the men doing mishpat, but when it comes to tzedakah, acts of charity and kindness, Avram will give charge to the women as well. But they're not included in the judicious process. Amrle Rav Ivya Sabala Rav Papa, Ema Bas Noach Shaharga Lo Tehareg, because miyad ish v'lo miyad ish aksiv. Well, if you're going to use the word ish to exclude women, maybe women are excluded not only from the judicious process, but also from the criminal process. Maybe they're excluded from being found guilty for crime. A Gentile woman perhaps should not be liable. So the Gemara answers, Amar lehachi Amar Rav Yehuda shofech dam ha'adam mikol makom. But the pasuk says anyone who spills the blood of man. So therefore, shofech could be both man or woman, and therefore we know that both male and female are included in the criminality of the act. So ema bas noach shezin salo teharik t'ksiv al ken ya'azov ish v'lo isha. Maybe, however, when it comes to sexual crimes, only men should be found guilty and not women, because after all, the Torah says that so shall a man leave his parents and cleave unto his wife. So only a man cleaves unto a wife, so maybe his act of infidelity is punishable. But her act of infidelity is not recorded in the Torah. So the Gemara answers no. Amar lehachi Amar Yehuda v'hayu levasar echad hadar arvinu kra. So the answer is that when the Torah says in that very same pasuk, they shall be one flesh, the Torah connects them. Just like he cleaves unto her, she cleaves unto him, and therefore either act of infidelity, either the man's or the woman's act of adultery, brings about punishment. Tanu Rabbana, ish, matamulomar ish, l'rabos es hakusim. We already know the word ish is written in the Parsha of Arayos. Why does the Parsha of Arayos say the word ish twice? So it's coming to tell me that Gentiles too are included in the laws of Arayos. Shemusharan al Harayos ke Yisrael, that they are commanded just like Jews are to not violate the laws of Arayos. Wait a minute, v'hami hacha nafka me'asam nafka, leimor ze gili Arayos. But on Daf Nun Vav, remember the Tana who said that we learn it all from the commandment to Adam, Mikol Eitz Hagan Tochol Tochel. The word leimor, the Gemara had said, is an allusion to Arayos. So why are you deriving it from Parshas Achremos when it's derived from Parshas Bereshis? So the Gemara answers, Hasam be'arayis didhu, v'hacha be'arayis didan. So the Gemara answers, well, there's a distinction between their arayis and our arayis, meaning the way that the simple understanding is that a Gentile who commits a forbidden sexual act with another Gentile, that's from Parshas Bereshis. But a Gentile who commits a forbidden sexual act with a Jewish person, that's from Parshas Achremos. The Ketani Seifa, Bol Arayos Yisrael, Nidon Bedina Yisrael. Because as it says, that if a Gentile has a relationship with a Jewish erva, so then he's judged like a Jew. In other words, normally a Gentile is the standard execution, is either death by the sword or death by chenek, depending upon who you hold like. But he would not be executed in the way a Jew would be executed for those same crimes. But if he does it with a Jewish person, so then he's executed like a Jew would be executed. But l'may hilchasa, Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravulo, Nitzrucha ela le'eda ve'edem v'hasra. So what's the halachic ramification? So the Gemara says, according to this Amora, that it means that when you have a relationship with a Gentile, you don't need a basin of 23, you don't need 2 witnesses, you don't need hasra. But when you have a forbidden relationship with a Jewish person, so then you need all the things that a Jew would need. So frek the Gemara migra gora? Question mark, exclamation point. What are you telling me? You're telling me that you're more lenient and restrictive on his punishability when he has a forbidden relationship with a Jew than over a Gentile? That just the opposite should be true. We should be more machmir because you violated a Jew instead of violating a fellow Gentile. So that doesn't make any sense. So Ela Amar Rabbi Yochanan lo nitzracha ela lanara hameorasa deliditu leslahu de daidina lahu bedina didan aval be'eshes ish bedina ditu dainina lahu. So the Gemara now says like this. This is the definitive answer. Rabbi Yochanan says that when that brisa tells me that Gentiles are included in the Jewish law, it's restricted to a very limited application. In the following situation, it doesn't really matter if a Gentile commits adultery with a fully married woman, it doesn't matter whether she's Jewish or non-Jewish, he'll always get the standard Gentile death penalty of either sword or chenek. However, what we're addressing over here is a Gentile has a forbidden relationship with a Nara HaMe'orasa, a betrothed Jewish girl. Now, betrothal in Gentile law is meaningless. If a girl is betrothed to a man in the Gentile world, but they've never lived together as husband and wife, that's not, and the guy, a third party, goes ahead and has a relationship with her, that's not considered to be an act of adultery. That's not punishable by death. It's only in Jewish societies where erusin is something of substance, that if a man has a relationship with a Nara HaMe'orasa, he's put to death by stoning. So that's the application. If a Gentile were to have a relationship with a Nara HaMe'orasa Gentile, he would not get the death penalty at all. Comes along the Brisa and says, but if a Gentile has a relationship with a Nara HaMe'orasa Jewish girl, so then he is put to death, and he's put to death by stoning, because there is no other corresponding death penalty for that particular act. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan says we're referring to. But wait a minute, but if he has a relationship with a fully married Jewish woman, he gets the standard death of a Gentile. But wait a minute, v'hatanya bol nara me'orasa nidon b'skil alesh zish nidon b'chenek v'i bedina ditu sayafu. But wait a minute, says the Gemara. There's a brisa that says that if a Gentile commits adultery with a Nara HaMe'orasa Jewish girl, he gets death by stoning. If he has an adultery with a Jewish fully married woman, he gets death by chenek. And what's the standard death penalty for a Gentile? It's sayaf, it's sword. So you see that what you said is not true. So Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, my eishes ish dekatani kigon shenichnas alachupa v'lo nivala, deliditu leslahu dayani, the leslahu kama dayaninu bedina didan. The case over there, when you say she's fully married, is not where she consummated her relationship with her new husband, but rather she had chuppah. Not only did she have kiddushin, but she also had chuppah. In Jewish law, she's considered now to be a nesuah. But in Gentile law, a woman is not considered to be a married woman until she actually consummates with intimacy the relationship with her husband. And that's what we're talking about. If he has adultery with a Nara HaMe'orasa Jewess, so then he's put to death by stoning. If he has an adultery with a woman who's a Nesua, because she had chuppah, but she never had consummation with her husband, so then he gets death by chenek, because he wouldn't normally get the death penalty at all if it was a Gentile. The Tani Rabbi Chanina bu'ulas bal yesh lahen nichnas l'chuppah v'lo nivala ein lahen. As he said explicitly, that Gentiles do not have this concept of a marriage unless there's consummation. Now, Tanya Kavos Rabbi Yochanan, we have a brisa to support Rabbi Yochanan's contention that the only time you treat a Gentile who commits a sexual crime as a Jew is only when we're talking about a Nara HaMe'orasa and that a nichnas l'chuppah v'lo nivala, she came to the chuppah but did not consummate. The brisa says as follows: Kol erva shebeistin shel Yisrael mimisin aleha ben Noach muzar aleha. Ein beistin shel Yisrael mimisin aleha, ein ben Noach muzar aleha divrei Reb Meir. Now this first line we're going to analyze tomorrow, but just to translate it, Rabbi Meir says any time that there is a death penalty coming to a Jew for that sexual crime, a Gentile is prohibited. But if there's no death penalty for that sexual crime for a Jew, then there's no prohibition whatsoever for a Gentile. Now that's difficult to understand, because there are many things that a Jew, if he does them, gets kares and not the death penalty. And essentially now what we're saying is like achos ishto, my wife's sister, right? That doesn't get the death penalty, it only gets kares. You tell me that by a Gentile there's no prohibition at all? So let's see, we'll have to wait and see. But the Chachamim say, Harbe arayos yesh she'ein beistin shel Yisrael mimisin aleha ben Noach muzar alein. And the Chachamim disagree, and they say, no, there are plenty of arayos where it does not come with the death penalty for a Jew, and still a Gentile is still prohibited. Bo'al arayos Yisrael, but this is the pertinent line to our discussion. Bo'al arayos Yisrael nidon bedina Yisrael, Bo'al arayos ben Noach nidon bedina ben Noach, ve'enu ein lanu ela nara ha'me'orasa bilvad. The Brisa says explicitly that if a Gentile commits a crime for which only a Jewish court would punish for, he's judged like a Jew. But if he does a crime for which the Gentile court would punish for, he's judged like a Gentile. And the only case, says the Brisa, would be a case of a Nara Hamoras, as we just mentioned. But wait a minute. But why don't you hold it's also true about what we just said before? A woman who went to chuppah, had chuppah with her husband, but never consummated. That too, he should be judged as a Gentile and not as a Jew. The answer is, Tana devei menashu, domer kol mitzvah mor livnei Noach, eno ela chenek. So, idi v'idi cheneku. The answer is because there's practically no difference, because this Tana of this Brisa holds that the standard death penalty is not death by the sword, but rather death by chenek for a Gentile. And there, it doesn't matter whether you judge him as a Jew or you judge him as a Gentile. If he has an adulterous relationship with a woman who had chuppah but never consummated, either way, death penalty is going to be standard death penalty for a Gentile, which will be strangulation according to this Tana. This is where we'll hold it for today. I know it was a little bit confusing, but I hope you got something out of it. Have a wonderful day.